What's going on, everyone? Psych Perspective, giofvcks here, and I want to discuss children going back to these elementaries, these middle schools, these high schools, daycare centers, etc., kindergarten, etc. As you know, 45 President Trump in the USA is basically stating that, he doesn't see anything wrong with children going back to school, despite the fact that we have over 53,000 plus cases per day in the USA of positive COVID-19 cases, despite the fact that Florida is the world's epicenter. Yes, the state of Florida is literally the global world's epicenter for coronavirus. And despite the fact that the USA as a country did not take the coronavirus pandemic serious, because if we did, we wouldn't be sitting up here already getting our asses destroyed by the second wave in July. Okay? I'm just saying. So, despite all of this, the president of the USA thinks that it's safe and sound for children to go back into crowded classrooms, crowded schools. You cannot socially distance in a classroom with 30 plus students. Okay, you can't social. And then on top of that, we're talking about kids. We're talking about youth. We're talking about children. We're talking about adolescents. And I used to work in a daycare center back from 2009 to 2010. I worked at a daycare center. That was my first job when I was 16. And that was 11 years ago when I first started working there. And I'm here to tell you, if you really think a 2-year-old is going to cough correctly into their elbow, and most kids are all over the place. They already don't wash their hands. You feel me? So you think these young people, these children, these youth, these kids are going to practice social distance and stay 6 feet apart, constantly wear a mask, not touch others, not cough on each other? You're in for a horrible situation. But again, in 2012, this same government, and I'm about to go there, in 2012, this same government decided that it was okay for children to die during Sandy Hook. And even before Sandy Hook. You feel me? What was all these other unnecessarily school shootings where children were the targets, youth and kids were the targets? So this country has already long decided that, hey, if we lose a couple of kids, oh well, not that big of an issue. And that's really how this country operates. Like, this country is completely fine with sending children to schools where they're going to die. They're going to die, and they're going to catch coronavirus. And they're going to bring home coronavirus because, once again, working in a daycare center, when I worked in a daycare center, I was sick all the time because, once again, it doesn't matter how many times you're washing your hands if you're constantly touching shit. You feel me? And then the people around you are not washing their hands. The people around you are sick and coughing and sneezing and touching and spitting and shitting and everything else. Working at a daycare center is basically no different than working at a in many ways is very similar to working at a nursing home. You're dealing with people who cannot take care of themselves properly. They don't have the capabilities. Okay? So a lot of it is you trying to wash them, clean them, care for them, do for them. So you're in such a close proximity. Teachers can't socially distance from kids. And again, you're going to bring home whatever sickness they have to your home. And the kids are going to do the same thing. And again, you're putting everybody's lives at risk because you think money is more important than saving human lives. I mean, this is sad. And then to talk about the educators. The educators already are underpaid. They're underpaid, and the schools are underfunded in many cases. And we're also going to see, once again, how white supremacy, racism, and classism plays a role, because, of course, the suburban schools are probably going to fend way better than the inner city schools and the rural schools, okay? Because the suburban schools are where most of the white people live and are also where most of the wealth is at. And because of that, they're able to have better taxes, better property taxes, to adequately fund these schools in these white suburban areas. I'm just calling it for what it is. I'm not saying anything new. We already know the black people of color, and lower income, our school districts are complete shit, and it's designed that way. It's literally made to be that way. So don't be surprised when you see the numbers increase, and you see the clusters of where the COVID-19 numbers are increasing in certain cities and school districts. And the school districts are probably going to be predominantly black, predominantly people of color, predominantly lower income, working class, working poor. And that's sad, because we know who's going to die, just like we know who's been dying from corona. Once again, mostly black, mostly people of color, mostly lower class, working poor. This is not a coincidence. This is by design. Okay? You can't sit up here and have racism and white supremacy and classism and oppression for centuries and then be surprised when you have these trends. The teachers are not paid, Teachers are making less than $50,000 a year, yet they're expected to be the teacher, the counselor, the parent, the educator, the therapist. They're supposed to do all of these things, the social worker. They're supposed to do all of these things for your child and make less than $50,000 a year with little to no benefits. And then also the teacher, as well as the parents and the community members, are expected to buy all of this equipment that the school should be providing in the first place. Like, you have to buy the pencils, the markers, the crayons, the paper, the backpacks, the whiteboard, the tissue, the Clorox, the wet wipes. You're expected to supply all that when the school should be able to have that, right? Like, that's the whole point of us paying taxes, but okay. Then you have parents. A lot of people are like, well, if you see that it's dangerous out here, why would you send your kids back to school? You must not care about your child. Again, it's not that black and white. It's not that, it's not that simple. Parents are forced to send their children to school and daycares because parents have jobs that also refuse to allow them to work from home, or refuse to pay them a living wage, refuse to give them opportunities for paid time off so they can stay at home and be with their children and be with their families. You feel me? So again, I'm sure most of these parents, if they absolutely had choices and options and resources, they probably wouldn't be sending their kid to fucking school to die from coronavirus. They probably wouldn't be sending their kids to daycare if they actually had the opportunities and resources to prevent that. But no, a lot of these parents are working the same shitty dead-end jobs that pay low and stagnant wages that are not a living wage, working jobs that don't offer health insurance or health care, or if they do, it's a shitty-ass $3,000 deductible when you're sitting up here making poverty pay. Okay? I'm just being honest. If we're not going to address the systemic issues in our society, such as racism and classism, and that's just two of many, right? Because there's homophobia, there's transphobia, there's ableism. There's a lot of isms that are extremely oppressive in nature. But if we're not going to address those issues, we're not going to save lives, and clearly all lives don't matter, okay? This is why, I'd be on my personal Facebook, and I'd be like, people be like, oh, but all lives matter. Yeah, all lives matter, but you're sending all children back to school to die. All lives matter, yet you have a lot of lives that are not making living wages. Okay. This is why I said it's so easy to address the all lives matter crowd, because for the most part, they're full of shit and they're hypocritical and they're bigots. Okay? It doesn't, they contradict themselves over and over again. And like I said, they'll scream all lives matter, but then turn around and discriminate, harass, and oppress another group of people while saying all lives matter. It's so easy to debunk their bullshit ass argument. But like I said, this country does not care about the health and well-being of anybody, including children. Which is crazy, because these are also the same people. I'm Christian evangelistical. I'm conservative. Family matters. Right. But in the meantime, your children can die. Okay? So, again, something has to give. This is the time. We need to fight back against oppression. If you're going to sit up here and let children die, then you know what? Your moral compass has been completely destroyed a long time ago. Okay? You're letting children die. You're letting the parents die. You're letting the families die. You're letting the school teachers and the administrators. You're letting everybody die while screaming all lives matter. This can't be, right? Like, how much cognitive dissonance is there really going on that we're ignoring the obvious? Like, no, kids have no business going back to school in a pandemic. This is wrong. This is bad. I don't care how you try to twist and turn it. I'm out.